You need to be super focused on one specific problem. One of the trap is trying to do too many things at the same time, and then you don't solve anything. So making sure that you are tackling something that is important enough for your future user to be concerned if this is not solved. And when I'm advising early stage startup, one of the trap I'm seeing is they're trying to solve too many things at the same time. So it's not an MVP anymore. It's becoming a small monster. You can't test hypotheses in parallel. You need to make it sequential.
You're listening to 0 to 1, the podcast where future unicorns get a start. Every week, we sit down with the founders actually building, the ones turning scrappy ideas into real-world companies. No fluff, no cliches, just raw insights, hard lessons, and the playbooks that VCs and top operators don't share publicly. We're your hosts, Jonathan, Matteo, and Gary, three friends obsessed with turning 0 into 1. Ready to build something legendary? Let's dive in.
So joining us on 0 to 1 is Fabrice Haiat, CEO and founder of Yoobic, the AI platform helping companies like Ralph Lauren, Levi, Puma, and Vans transform how frontline teams communicate, train, and execute. Today, more than 350 companies worldwide use Yoobic to digitize operations and bring AI directly into the daily workflows of deskless workers. In this episode of 0 to 1, we break down how AI is reshaping enterprise workflows, why overlooked industries may produce the next generation of AI winners, and what it takes to drive adoption inside organizations resistant to change. Hello, Fabrice. How are you?
Very good, very good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on this episode today. Maybe for our listeners who don't know you yet, can you introduce yourself briefly?
So I'm Fabrice. I'm French, as you might hear from my accent. I'm an engineer by training. I went to École Centrale Paris. I then started my career as a consultant at McKinsey for a few years. And then I've been an entrepreneur for the past 27 years. And we have something a little bit unusual. I'm working with my two brothers. So I have a twin brother based out of Tel Aviv, and I have a youngest brother based in London. And we've been bootstrapping, growing, and selling companies together for the past 30 years.
Amazing. Can you maybe tell us more about how you started your career as an entrepreneur? So you went to as a consultant. What was the switch at the time? Because it was a kind of the cool career to be a consultant at McKinsey 30 years ago. So what was like the switch for you to start being an entrepreneur, especially in the tech era where tech wasn't sexy as sexy as it is today, and it was hard.
So first, I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I like doing things and seeing the impact of what I'm doing. I love my experience at McKinsey. I learned a lot. It was super motivating, the vibrant environment. But I was a little bit frustrated to stop at the recommendation phase and not being in charge of the implementation. I think one of my lesson learned is what's difficult is the execution. You will find good ideas, etc. What's really make the difference is the ability to execute on those ideas. And I think I'm a good operator. I like doing things and making things happen. I'm coming from an entrepreneur family. So my father was an entrepreneur, my uncle was an entrepreneur, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. So I never saw being an entrepreneur as taking a risk. In part of my, I'm not particularly risk adverse when it comes to work. I consider that worst case scenario, I'll find a job. I only sent one CV in my entire life when I applied to McKinsey, and then never did it again. Never had to refresh a CV, never had to do any interview. And I think I like that. Doesn't mean that entrepreneurship is for everyone. It has its pros and cons. But this is what I like, and this is what I've been doing for many years now.
Starting your company after McKinsey, your first company, Can you tell us maybe more about your first business and how did you learn about being a good operator? Because you're saying like you're a great operator. That doesn't come naturally, especially as a consultant where you're mostly advising people or analyzing stuff rather than doing stuff. So it's kind of the opposite. How did you close that gap and learn into that way?
Yeah. So the first company was a family business managed by my father and his brothers. And we basically took over and restructured the business. And the business was not particularly in a very healthy financial stage. So at a very young age, I had to deal with very complex alignment with some of the shareholders of the revenue, significant decrease of the revenue, paid invoice by some clients. So I had to manage a bunch of stuff that usually you're not supposed to manage at 20. I was 27, I think. But I learned a lot, and that's probably what's then shaped me as an operator moving forward. I think going through difficult time, you probably learn a lot of things. So I know how to manage a P&L. I know take hard decision that potentially people avoid to take because it's never easy. I've been through it, and I consider that my responsibility is to defend to be the company representative. So I'm making the choice that are protecting the company interest.
Mm-hmm. And what attracted you to the software space? Because if I'm not wrong, the family business was not in software.
No, it was in software actually. It was in software. So it was years ago at a stage where even the name startup did not exist. It was software for architects. It was a CAD drawing software for architects. So I've been in software all my life. It was on premise. We were shipping CD to customer, but it was already software. So it was a one-shot software and then subscription for the maintenance and the upgrade. So I already had some part of the subscription business model from the beginning, and we were selling to SMBs mostly.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing because in France, it's very rare to find people who like to have a family business in software.
Yeah, and I fall in love with the software business because actually this is probably the only business that you can start without any money, just a computer and some, especially now, like the barrier to entry have decreased significantly. So that's a fantastic category for a young entrepreneur.
It's amazing. Maybe is it possible for you to just go through like the genesis of your story that goes to that leads into Yoobic? You were into the family business. Then what happened then that led you to start Yoobic with your brothers? Because you were already working with your family at the time, so maybe that was an idea. I want to work with the family. What led you to this decision, especially like fragmented in 3 different cities? And
we were all living in Paris at the time. Yes, we were all living in Paris. So we went through different readjustment of the business, and I think now we call that we pivoted several times. The last pivot was we were doing an energy monitoring platform. So we were connecting building to our platform, monitoring energy consumption, and identifying potential energy saving opportunities for the building manager. And at the time, there were a lot of initiatives around saving the planet, and energy consumption was a big part of this. So we grew very rapidly, more than doubling the revenue every year. The curve was really nice. And I pitched at an event, and someone from Schneider Electric came to me saying, "I love what you're doing. I want to learn more," etc. Long story short, a few months, maybe years later, we sold the company to Schneider Electric. So it's been quite a nice journey to start something, have to adjust the business, pivoted several times to a point where we find our product market fit, and then things looks much easier when you are there compared to the restructuring phase, which was pretty brutal. So we had like 6-7 years of hyper growth to a point where we sold to Schneider Electric. And then from there, we worked for Schneider for 2.5 years. And the idea of Yoobic started when we were at Schneider Electric. We wanted to, so I had in my team a large group of people that were doing audits. They were going on site to assess buildings and to collect data while not at their desk. And the way to do that, they were opening their desktop. They were trying to kind of type on the Google Sheets what they were seeing in the field. So data collection, mobile data collection was not really easy at the time. And then the data were unstructured because it was collected in Google Sheets. So we said, okay, let's find a tool that do enable this auditor to collect data while they are on site on the phone. And we try like 20 different things, from Google Sheet to specialized software. And we didn't like any of the tool because they were pretty rustic. The user experience was pretty poor, pretty bad. So we decided to basically build a tool that would enable people in the field to communicate with their headquarters in a kind of modern and consumer-like manner. Now this category is called frontline employee or deskless workers. At the time, they didn't have a name, but we had a strong conviction that mobile phone will become the computer of this category of workers. And it happened that 80% of the working population is deskless. So 2.7 billion of workers are not sitting behind a computer, but only 1% of IT investment is dedicated toward this population. So you have a big discrepancy between the volume of workers that are completely disconnected and don't have specific tool and the IT investment. So we want to fill this gap. This is why we started Yoobic.
Amazing. And how did you? So that was at Schneider's. So then you left Schneider's to build Yoobic. Was it always natural to just start again with your brothers at the company at the time?
Yes, it was very natural. We had a dream team. My brother in Israel is handling the back end. My brother in London is handling the front end. I'm doing go-to-market and sales. So we have very well-defined scope of responsibility. We know how to work together. So it was pretty obvious.
And I just wanted to maybe dig deeper into something you mentioned. So you had to come on the client side and really discover their pain points. But for our listeners who are wondering, how can I discover, those kind of problems to create a solution, because I don't have access to those workers. I don't know anyone, at those companies. What would you recommend them?
So we started with this idea that we want to build a mobile application for deskless workers. And then I like to apply that to a specific category, a vertical. I don't like horizontal technology. I like finding a vertical. So we tested 2 or 3 different verticals. Retail was one of them. And what I did is I spent 2 weeks in a store shadowing a store manager to try to understand how this guy was working. And this is how I discovered the pain, the business pain. How I did that, I had a contact. I mean, I used my network basically to get introduced to a store manager. And I spent those 2 weeks like just looking at how he was working and where I see some opportunity to save him time and to make his work more efficient. And when people are doing the same job for years, they don't realize that their way of working can be improved. They don't. But if you look at it from an external eye and just because you know the tech, you can say, okay, this thing we can make it very different or much easier with technology. This is how you discover the pain. And so I think I consider that my role is to translate inefficiency into something that could be easier with tech, but the need is coming from the user. So I'm spending a lot of time. I love understanding how people are working. This is something that I've been doing for years. So I love to understand businesses. And this is how, through this conversation, I'm finding my way on and deciding what is exactly the problem I'm trying to solve. And you need to be super focused on one specific problem. One of the trap is trying to do too many things at the same time, and then you don't solve anything. So making sure that you are tackling something that is important enough for your future user to be concerned if this is not solved. That's super important. And when I'm advising early stage startup, one of the trap I'm seeing is they're trying to solve too many things at the same time. So it's not an MVP anymore. It's becoming a small monster, and it makes things more difficult because you don't know. It's not a problem if the first topic you are choosing is not working, but at least you know if it's not working. If you have 20 parameters moving at the same time, you never know what's working, what's not working. So it's more a sequential thing than a parallel thing. You can't test hypothesis in parallel. You need to make it sequential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very interesting. Now going back on you're the sales guy at Yoobic, and how did you, as you said, you're very complementary with your brothers, but see, you were the one in charge of like finding clients. How do you find your first users as with Yoobic starting out with a product that's hard to sell to enterprise? I mean, it's kind of, I mean, your end users were basically enterprise that had a lot of like deskless workers working in logistics, in supply chain.
We had some conviction. So we defined clearly our ICP that were retailer with 100 store. And we knew that we wanted to talk to the store operation guy or the visual merchandising team. So we know exactly our ICP and our persona. So it makes your life much easier because then you have a subset of accounts. And we were basically either emailing the contact with something that was interesting for him or using our network to get some introduction. So very simple. I mean, it's much simpler than one can think. It's more difficult to scale than to get the first contact. And the first meeting was, we had an MVP. We are presenting the MVP, trying to understand the pushback, and then from there we were taking into account the feedback, eventually enhancing the MVP to a point where we had the first trial in the field.
But selling to those enterprise clients, like, I mean, selling to especially the CIO, CISO, DSU in France, that are literally like the ones that are trying to block you from selling and deploying the tech.
I never sold to the CTO. I always sell to the business.
But when you said the business,
a business problem. I'm not a tech layer or a tech stack in the architecture. So it makes sense when you're selling to the business, if you can prove the value or at least explain the value and the business impact. With SaaS now, it's pretty easy. There is no integration needed, etc. You can get your foot in the door easy.
But like those large enterprises, they always try to like include like, you know, the IT or the CIO that's just going to say, oh no, we can't do this because it's not compliant or whatsoever. How do you, as a first having like a rusty product at the beginning, like, try to convince those guys that they're not making a risky bet in terms of like security and all that stuff?
Yeah, we were not really starting from scratch because we already did a platform that was enterprise grade in our previous business.
Okay.
So we knew the requirement on how to sell to enterprise.
Okay.
So from the beginning, we were super careful about security, certification, to make sure that we are compliant with the requirement of an enterprise. And same thing, because we knew from the beginning our ICP, that comes with some constraint or requirement that we've taken into account from day one.
Do you think these certifications and whatsoever should be acquired by a company that's trying to selling that's building like a B2B enterprise product from the beginning, from day one, or is it
Yeah, you
something that
need
can
to
come
know if you
later?
want to be a product-led growth or an enterprise solution. You need to know your sales motion, because the customer acquisition model for a PLG solution is very different from an enterprise solution. So everything you're building will be completely different depending of the angle that you are choosing. So those are, I think, critical question that one should ask himself at the very early of the process or launching a company. And you might be wrong, but you can always change your mind. But you need to, at McKinsey, we were calling that hypothesis driven. You make an hypothesis, you test the hypothesis until you find that the hypothesis is wrong, and then you change your hypothesis. But that's how you kind of do. So that's require a lot of iteration, constant iteration.
And when thinking about, for example, compliance, I know different enterprises have different compliance requirements. How do you take into account the differences in terms of requirements? For example, if a company tells you, I like to be compliant, it needs to satisfy this list of parameters, and another one has a completely different list of parameters, how do you find the best trade-off to build for those two?
The requirement from an enterprise grade platform is pretty much always the same. You need a certification like ISO or SOC 2 type of certification. And your tech stack is not really, it's a black box for the company. You need to be able to have perform some penetration test to show that you have something that is pretty solid. With SaaS, etc., you need to have a robust recovery plan and backup plan, but that's pretty much the same requirement for any enterprise. Like, there are standard in the industry, you need to follow the standard basically. Don't do exotic stuff like that. My recommendation is don't do something exotic because you're trying to be smarter. If you want to sell to enterprise, understand the basic requirement of enterprise, and then it's working. So there is not so much diversity in terms of requirement.
And when you are approaching an enterprise, should it be one of the first things you need to take care of before trying to sell to an enterprise, or should it come after once you have built an MVP? Or
it's at the end of the sales cycle. You need to sell to your champion basically, and then you will have the IT at the end to check the box that you're not going to mess up with their network or introduce a risk to their infrastructure.
Okay, really cool. Now maybe going back to the sales part, like you were, so you grew from 0 to 1 million. Were you the only one like selling first Yoobic? Like, were you the only sales guy in the team before hiring? When did your first hires come, and what was the step like to scale, the product once you get the kind of validation of the market?
I've been the one selling for the first maybe year and a half. And I only hired salespeople when my pitch was exactly the same from one meeting to another meeting. So you cannot ask people to build the pitch if you've not been able to do it yourself. So until you have something which is replicable, it's useless to hire people because they're going to solve the problem on your behalf. So what I was doing is at the very beginning, after each meeting, I had one of my team member. I was calling her, and we were debriefing about the meeting. We were adjusting the slides, literally after each meeting, to fine tune the angle. To a point where I knew that I was doing the same exact thing at each step of the sales process. And then I had a playbook. And then I hired my 3 sales guy because the playbook was there. And then I teach and I train them on the playbook. But doing that in that sequence is super important. Sometimes I'm seeing people like hiring without this playbook. There is no chance or very limited chance that it's going to work because it means that you haven't met what is your value proposal, what is the pitch, etc.
And on the marketing side, because you're also leading since the whole go-to-market B2B, what's your advice when going from 0 to 1 to like market yourself? Aside the events, like with your company, because one of the things that founders struggle most when starting the company, especially in B2B enterprise, is to build a great marketing. Like Deal has done it, other companies have done it, but like it's very hard to build a very strong marketing prior to raising money. What's your advice on a practical tip to do so?
Well, you have the best marketer in the world with Claude. The world has changed. It was much difficult 10 years ago when you had to fine-tune your story and your pitch, etc. You give kind of you share with Claude what you want, and he will do the research for you, and it will be like next level in terms of quality, like unseen. A company 10 years ago was not able to produce the level of quality that you can get with Claude today in terms of pitch, in terms of story, etc. So this has significantly decreased the barrier to entry. The magnitude is significant. Like I remember how much time it took me to put together the first website, for example, and to find the right positioning story, to write the article, etc. It takes me. I can do that in a day now. I think that's that the world has changed significantly.
If you were like starting Yoobic all over again today, how would you think about leveraging all those AI tools? Like for our listeners who might be hesitating to rely too much on them, what advice would you give them?
200% leveraging AI, like not 100%, 200%. There is absolutely no reason to not do it. Not only from a marketing perspective, but for every function in the company, from the dev team to the CI, CS, etc. The productivity gain insane. So there is. I would be very concerned to have an entrepreneur telling me, "Oh, I'm not very comfortable using Claude for doing that task." Like, why? Like, there is no way you don't do that. There is no reason. You need to keep critical eyes on the output, for sure. Like you need to have this, but the first analysis and getting like brainstorming with AI tool is next level.
Mhm. And if you like didn't know, for example, the market you wanted to tackle, can you maybe give us an example of how you will leverage Claude to help you brainstorm or come up with interesting ideas?
Imagine you want to target a new segment, and you're not a specialist of this segment. The market research, the pain, the vocabulary of this segment, I will get that in no time. It would have taken me like ages to do that before by interviewing people, trying to understand, reading books, etc. I have all the knowledge available at my fingertip. Building the playbook is now, if you reference the right methodology, building the playbook takes no time. Coding, obviously, is every step of what needs to be done in the company now can be pretty much assisted by AI.
Don't you think that people are kind of losing their creativity and their unique aspect, by relying too much on AI, by to like design your website, do your content, do everything? Like I think it's especially on social media when you go through reels or whatsoever on Instagram, like all the content now is kind of like all the same. Like
That's very true. Like I was in a jury in a pitch in a startup competition a few days ago. I think 80% of the slides look like the same with the bold title in italic, like you can see it's been generated by AI. But at the end of the day, does that really matter? Like what matters is the content, the topic they are trying to solve, etc. So I don't know. I think the benefit is higher than the drawback. So wouldn't be too hesitant.
Okay. And how do you reimagine your Yoobic internally with the AI era? Like, are you giving a Cloud Max to all your employees? Are you bullish on each one of them, like using Cloud Code maximum just to automate all the workflows or to use AI? What are your guidelines internally, like to rethink about the company and as a CEO, just
Yeah,
now we're not doing
uh,
2026
in
to
adopting AI very early and bring that to literally every team. So there is not a single team that doesn't use AI. We also monitor the volume of consumption of token, not to blame the one that are using a lot of token, but to discuss with the one who are not using token, because that's an anomaly. If you can make your agent work for you, why would you not do that?
how much are you spending per month on Cloud on Anthropic?
A lot. I'm not going to disclose the number, but a lot. But
'Cause, yeah, I think
the
companies.
time we are saying the speed for us in terms of launching new feature, etc., is insane. So I don't think there is another way. It's require a lot of organizational changes and training and make sure people use the new capability to the best of their potential. But I mean, it's obvious that it's a good it's a good use of our months.
And in terms of, for example, user interface, I mean, with, all the recent innovations, the new interfaces that people are used to with LLMs, how are you reimagining your interface at Yoobic and for example, the user experience? Because I know you are designing for people who might be resisting change. So how are you making their life easier? And for any entrepreneurs who, are thinking about those questions, what advice would you give them when building for those persona?
So for our specific audience and end user, the user experience of Claude or ChatGPT is not adapted, because you don't want to type in a chatbot or discuss with an agent when you are in a store. You don't have that. You want to be guided into making decision. You want the platform to give you recommendation, etc. So the ILM is just a layer working behind the scene, but the way we present the information is very different from a Claude user interface. But it always come back to knowing your end user, knowing how they work on their day to day, to make sure that you configure the platform for their needs. And so this is a lot of discovery time spent with user, going in the store, looking at how they work. And this is how we kind of built the UX UI of the platform.
Okay, amazing. Do you have like any AI agents internally that you've built, like, and you recommend people to build them for them when starting a company, when having a company, like the ones that are super cool that you're proud of your team?
We have a ton. Well, one which is pretty cool is we are recording our sales call. If a competitor is mentioned, we're gonna update our competitor playbook directly in Confluence, and we're running this routine on a weekly basis. So we have a playbook that is always updated based on what prospect or customer are telling us about the competition.
So
That before took ages. We had to sales guy had to flag that competitor was mentioned, that we had to listen to the recording, etc. It's completely automated. But we did, I think, live. We probably have something like 50 agents doing some very specific task, but that's are integrated in our way of working. That's what's critical, like making sure it's in the flow of work and it's integrated in your way of working.
Okay. So you now back to the business, building the business. Thank you for those tips that are super useful. So you moved from Paris to the US. You brothers went from Paris to London, and the other one went from Paris to Tel Aviv. So what was the thing that kind of like fragmented the whole team? Is it a fight, or is it that you both wanted to a new change? And what like in terms of business, how did that impact your traction? Also, like having the founders like at different places with different time zones, and building the team on a kind of like fragmented way. Also,
So my brother, my twin brother, went to Israel like 22 years ago, while we were already working on our previous company, because
okay,
it's a great place to hire tech talents.
yeah,
My youngest brother and myself, we were based in London. We grew Europe, and at one point, I decided that it could be pretty fun to try to tackle the US market. So I raised $25 million and opened the US office here in New York. So it's been, I mean, eh, I'm meeting a lot of French entrepreneurs that want to start their journey in the US. My strong conviction is you need to move here if you want to make it, because this is a different market and you need to understand the dynamic of the market.
yeah. For any type of business, you mean, or only
In terms
for
of
tech?
business, in terms of hiring, uh, uh, everything is different in terms of marketing your solution. Everything need to be reinvented when you come from Europe to the US. So being here as as the entrepreneur or as a CEO give me an edge in terms of decision making, where in terms of marketing investment, product roadmap, etc., to kind of tackle the US market.
Well, when should a founder go to from like say, okay, now's the time to move from France to the US, or
I don't
what
think
kind,
there
what
is a rule.
revenue, what time? Do you have any?
There is a rule. It depends of your sales motion. Probably if you are product-led growth, you can do that later. When you are enterprise sales, you need at one point to meet with customers, so it's easier if you're already based here. I would say you are either very early stage and you don't already have a team, etc. So you are just a few bunch of people who can move here, or you need to be around 50, 60 people in the team to have some kind of processes locally, so that when you move, the process and your European operation doesn't collapse. So that's I would say the two potential timing where I would consider moving.
And do you think that if you're starting like let's say you're a team of 10 people and you're in France and you want to go to the US, should the founder like already like, it's a mistake to leave Paris and because it's gonna break out the operations in Paris, or should everyone move to the US at some point? Like, do you think?
There is some complexity. I mean, now it's getting easier, but still, you're gonna. I guarantee you that when the founder or the one leading the business is moving to a new location, the previous location is gonna suffer. You're gonna have more churn, decrease of sales, etc. And it's gonna take time to get the new location up and running. So you need to be able to go through that loop. And the US is super expensive. So if you don't have either a profitable business or business growing super quickly or money, don't come here. You're gonna lose your investment. It's very expensive.
Especially you going to New York. Like, why did you choose New York and not SF as the founder?
Because I didn't had we building in France, we building in London, we building in Israel. I didn't had the need to hire tech talents, and in terms of time zone, wanted to have some overlap with Europe, which is impossible if you are in California.
And if you were to do it all over again, would you choose New York over San Francisco, for example? Or
100%. I would choose New York. New York tech scene now is booming. I love this city. For me, it's the best city in the world. So I would do it all over again.
Yeah, I can agree. There's a special energy there. Going back from New York, the people you meet, everyone's through business super fast. Like that's Whereas in France, like people, they're starting, AI committees to discuss if AI should be or not included in the company. Already in the US, everyone's like already spending like $10,000 per employee on cloud cards. So it's like so different in terms of mentality, also in terms of the risk taking, also. But that's kind of what made the US such a rapid evolving country in 200 years. They're the leading technology country. Now, if you had any advice like for raising money or as a founder, what would you do? Would you start, especially today with all the AI tools as whatsoever? Would you recommend a founder to raise money also at some point, or do you think that you can build a very good business bootstrapped? Especially if you see all the businesses, two-person companies sold for 1.4 billion in just
Yeah.
a year, all that
Well,
stuff.
if you can bootstrap and get an exit, why would you raise money? You're raising money when you have the choice. It's not a success. Raising money is like borrowing money to the bank. It's not a success. You do that because you don't have any other choice. So I'm always very surprised when companies are announcing uh, capital raise from VC. Why is that a good news? I don't know. But good news can be selling the company. This is a good news. But raising money is not a good news. Yeah, are you partying when you are borrowing money to the bank? No. So that's the same thing. Even worse, when you raise money. You raise money when you have the choice. It should be part of a strategy. You raise money because you want to open a new country. You raise money because you want to speed up your development, but it has a purpose. If you can bootstrap and grow without that, I would 100% recommend to not raise money.
Do you have a bad experience with investors?
No, it create new constraints.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the smaller you are, the leaner you are, the better it is. The
Yeah.
faster you move, also.
And I've seen so many companies once they've raised money losing attention to detail and starting like getting less having less scrutiny on the way they're spending their money. But €1 is €1. Whether you have 20 million at the bank or not, it's still €1. The only thing that raising money give you is you don't need to optimize everything. You can live with stuff that are not fully optimized, but at one point you will need to kind of review and enhance. But that give you time, that buy you time potentially. Yeah, I mean, if you can bootstrap, it's always easier.
So in this day and age where you see all those fundraising on LinkedIn, does it make you feel that, like we are in a very different time than we used to be before?
No,
Or
Peter, fundraising exists for 20 years now, so it's nothing different. There are ways of things that are very hype. So right now AI is hype. A few years ago it was SaaS and it was big data. Then so every 3-4 years you have a new cycle with something which is hype, and then the hype will disappear. This is normal way of business. So nothing specific. What is specific now is the speed of growth of some of the AI companies that have never been seen ever. So that's what's really impressive. So the world have changed from this point of view significantly.
You said that there was going to be a new wave every 3 years. What's the next one? Is it quantum computing? Is it robotics? Do you think?
I'm super bullish on robotics and AI. I think it's going to be the next generation for sure. It's going to be a revolution.
Now going back to your on your personal side, like, do you have any routines or anything that you would advise founders to do to find success early on in their career, in their entrepreneurial journey?
I don't think there is any routine. Would be it. It will be too easy. You need to be prepared to go through up and down. That's what an entrepreneur journey is about. And the same day you will have a great news and a very bad news, and you need to be able to live with that. I think attention to detail is important. Tenacity is important. Not listening to people that gonna tell you that it's not gonna work, because you always find a lot of people that will have great advice. There are few doers. There are more people that give you advice than doer. And if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you need to be on the doer side. So that's a choice. Like you will have to make sacrifice, time and energy, etc. But in my opinion, it's worth it. But it's not for everyone.
And if you were to give like an advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be if you were starting all over again?
Move to New York earlier. Should have made the move when I was 20, not at 45. Probably something about start young. Like I don't think working, like I have a lot of friends that have started their career with an ambition of becoming entrepreneur, and 5 years later they are trapped in a situation where they got their monthly salary, they've adjusted their cost of living to their salary, and they can't unplug and start from scratch. If you are fresh out of college or grande école, start there. Like you have nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you will learn a lot of things and you will find the best next job later. But experience in a big company will never learn you what entrepreneurship is. Even working in a startup will not learn you what entrepreneurship is, because you're not doing it. The only way of learning is doing it. That's the only way. And yes, you're gonna make mistakes, but that's part of the journey to see how you learn. So start, in my opinion, start as early as possible. There is absolutely no reason to. I mean, if you feel like this is something for you, you really are ready to make the sacrifice and to work hard. There is zero reason not to do it.
And Cloud Code makes it easier too.
Do you have any big mistake that you made early on that you wouldn't do again?
Doing mistake every day.
A big one, like now that would be relevant for a 25-year-old guy starting his company in 2026.
There is a difference between being persistent and being stubborn. So you need to have a strong conviction of what you want to build, but also I think get the input of the outside, especially the potential clients, to adjust your idea. I don't think, I mean, in my world, I don't think someone is waking up in the morning with a fantastic idea. I think you're shaping your idea step by step. This phase of small iterations sometimes feel uncomfortable for some people, but that is part of the creative journey. Yeah, being able to take into account feedback and adjust and decide what feedback you want to take and what feedback you don't want to take. Listening to adjust your idea is something I think.
Amazing. Now we have some rapid fire question to close up the episode that we're going to ask. Maybe Matteo, you want to start?
No, for sure. So what is one of your favorite tools, apps, or frameworks that you're using daily? You can say Yoobic.
Constant iteration. When I'm in the creative phase, it's a framework based on iteration. When I am in the execution phase, it's a very structured process to deliver. And I need to define each time in which phase I am so that I'm not mixing tools. So I have a kind of a library of tools like process or way of working that differ depending of in which phase I am. I think I built that along the years. So that's something that I'm using every day.
Really cool. Do you have ADHD by any chance? Because it's kind of a two-way of like the two. It's I think Daniel Kahneman's book, The Two Systems. You know.
I don't think I have, but now I'm gonna I'm gonna check.
Well, I don't remember the name of the book, but there's like the two systems.
Thinking fast and slow.
Thinking fast and slow. Yeah, it's kind of the two phases of thinking.
I didn't know that. I will check the book.
It's interesting. pretty long and hard to read, but interesting. You can just check on ask Claude to read it for you. What's your best habit or routine to increase your energy and focus as a founder? Never lose that, like over the ups and downs of the company, and always like be having like the crystal clear vision for your employees that doesn't like weaken the company.
Going to the gym.
Into the gym.
Yeah, that's I'm practicing martial art for 35 years and boxing, and I'm training 5 days a week, and will never miss a training session, because that's what give me clarity and help me step back sometimes on some decision. It's for me, it's super important.
Okay.
What book, podcast, or thinker shaped your approach to AI and the future of work?
So not really AI, but one book which is my Bible is called Crossing the Chiasm. It's been written 20 years ago, but you can apply it. It's my playbook. Like basically, I'm applying and I'm reading it every 2-3 years just to refresh my mind. It's a good way of looking at launching a business and then growing a business.
Amazing. I think we wrapped up all the questions. Do you have any founder you recommend us to host on 0 to 1 next?
Yes, maybe Vincent Briand of Deepkey. Fantastic tech for energy management, which is a topic that I know very well. So Vincent is a great guy. You should definitely talk.
Amazing. That's it for this episode of 0 to 1. If this gave you an idea, an edge, or the courage to build, send it to your friend, founder, or your team. Follow us, subscribe, and drop us a DM if there's someone you want to hear next. Until then, keep building, keep shipping, and go from 0 to 1.